Hello. It's me, Stu, here with my lovely wife, Amy.
For our Sunday chats.
And today, we're talking about how to show up as a good human being during the COVID epidemic.
Yes.
And why are we having a chat about this?
I don't know, because some things have come up over the past week that we've gone through and that we've juggled with, and this come up between us too as a couple.
Yeah.
So we thought that it would be fun to
and we saw some things that we didn't like happening with how people were showing up that was a little unfair in our opinion. And so we wanted to come to you today and have a little discussion about it.
Yeah.
So, okay, first things first, the coronavirus is serious.
Yeah, it's awful.
And it's getting more and more serious by the day. And so what we're talking about here is something that you, me, all of us have never experienced before.
The whole world.
The whole world has never experienced something like this before. And so, nobody really knows how to navigate this whole thing. We're dealing with situations that we've never had to deal with before, like being quarantined
in your house, running a business with the kids at home,
homeschooling,
attempting baking. I don't bake, but I've been trying to bake.
Good on you.
Like all these different things that I do.
But it is a totally different experience. And for you've been getting really stir crazy. Like we've been quarantined for 2 weeks now, and you're really getting stir crazy.
You really realize how much you love getting out.
Yes.
Doing things. So.
Yeah, totally. And hello to everybody who is saying hello. Thank you for saying hello. We appreciate you. So this is totally new for a lot of people. And everybody. Yes, you're right. Everybody. And nobody really knows kind of how to act. Some people are obviously have been taking it serious right from the get-go. Yeah. Like we have friends of ours who were actually way more proactive about taking precautionary measures than we were. Like, for example, they had stocked up on toilet paper and Lysol wipes, like way before everybody else. And because they took it a lot more seriously earlier on. Yeah. But we do the best with what we got available to us, right?
We found some disinfectant today that our mother-in-law found for us.
Yes. Great. Shout out to my mom and dad who scored us with some disinfectant. So, but that's another thing that we're getting used to, right? Yeah. Like, before we just go to the store and get what we need to get.
And put it in the fridge. But now this is where some of the stuff we're going to talk about and how we handle is a little different. Yeah.
So there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of new things that are happening. But here's what we do know. We've got 3 tips for you today. 3 tips for you in terms of how to show up as a good human being during all of this.
And how to be perhaps a more patient husband or wife.
Oh. You see that little sleight of hand there, my friends?
No, but we've talked. This is something we're going to talk about.
Okay. All right. So number one, think of others.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you have to obviously think of your family foremost and who's in your family unit. But it's also thinking about those that you're connecting with and who they're connecting with. Because we have friends that are separated and have kids and they might be going to different homes. And in that case, I think it's really respectful to make sure that both the separate homes are on similar pages or that you both are along the same line.
So give some context here, because like one side obviously has a greater sense of concern regarding the coronavirus because of health situations.
Yeah, if there's one side of the family that is more, staying close to home, doing the social distancing that I think we should all be doing. But then if the other side of the family has taken the child and gone to a barbecue or not been so protective or doing the same kind of measures that the other side of the family is, it then creates conflict. So it's just, you really have to think of your family, but then also think of the extended family and think of those around you and how that impacts them.
Yeah. So case in point, like for us, we've been pretty adamant about this. Like my family lives pretty close. We see them regularly. And when I say my family, I'm talking about, my parents, but we've been pretty adamant about like not seeing my parents because we, my dad is probably going to be more susceptible to getting the coronavirus. We came back from a trip. We didn't know if we had it or not. Yeah. So we were self-quarantined.
Thankfully, we're in day 14 today.
Yeah. Yeah. Today was, tomorrow's our last day.
Yeah. Today's 13. To me, it's like nothing's going to change anyway.
But regardless, like we were proactive in thinking about them. And they've been, very open and thankful for that. But even like when it comes to thinking about others, when I think of my parents, like they've been super helpful for us too, right? Yeah. Like knowing that we were quarantined, we couldn't do a lot of things. They've been, helping out in that regard too. But I think thinking of others is important. What are some other examples? So you're talking about like being thoughtful, in that regard. You want to move on to number 2?
No, I don't.
Is that she just pointed to number 2? So
no, I wasn't sure if that was where.
Okay. All right. So number 1, think of others. I think that's the bottom line. Like think of others. Like think of others where others might be coming from.
Yeah.
Number 2 is don't shame others.
Yeah. Like we're all handling this to like the best thing that we can, or up to like how we can at home. Like we all have different situations. We all have different financial situations, different health situations, like where we live. We may be in an apartment, we may be in a home, we may be wherever we may be. But it's really important, I think, that you don't make fun of others if they're doing a certain thing. So for like your example, we were joking around. I am probably more protective in our household. I am the one that is disinfecting the counters. We got groceries today. They stay outside. I take all the stuff out the boxes. The kids were actually wiping it down with me. And like, so I take it a bit more, but that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
And I think for some, like you've got to do what makes you feel comfortable and you feel safe and you feel like you can get through it. So for me, there's certain things that I need that, I probably wash my hands too much and put too much sanitizer, but it makes me feel better.
And to that point, this is kind of one of the conversations that came up between you and I, which was like, in the beginning, it did feel a little overboard for the kids and I. And we may have said comments like, "Oh, Mom, not again. Like, not just, okay, we've already put hand sanitizer on like 5 million times." But I started to realize like that was trickling down to the kids because the kids were starting to say that kind of thing to you.
Yeah. And we talked about it and I tried not to be so overboard. But then for me, that's a way that I feel better. Like when we do our groceries and bringing everything in, and I'm the one that's kind of doing more of that.
But we've seen some of this shaming showing up in different ways, right? Like we've seen friends of mine who are quarantined, who left the house, on a walk. They kept the social distancing, all that kind of stuff, but they got shamed, because they left the house. And I think that there's absolutely like personal responsibility, like, and that is, not leaving the house to go to, a public, like a barbecue or a party or like a place where there's going to be a lot of people. But my goodness, to go for a walk when there's nobody around, like
and that's making them get through that moment, and they're not putting anyone else at risk. They've kept the safe distance. I just think that's you've got to let each family do what they can do to get through this time, because it's not easy for anybody.
Like you were getting Amy's the stir crazy one. Like you get stir crazy. You are normally like out and about doing a whole bunch of stuff. And so one of our ways to kind of handle the stir craziness is we go for a drive.
We have, and we didn't at the beginning. Now that we're closer to the end, we've taken a couple of drives, and we go to a house we're building. We'll drive down. We don't see anybody. We get there. We don't see anybody.
We don't talk to anybody.
We get in the car and we come back. But we try to limit those. We've been doing it once a week. And that for me makes me feel better. I'm like, I don't even care where we go. I'm like, we drove around today and just looked at some nice areas of like houses.
We dreamed.
We were looking at dream properties, and like, it's keeping those positive thoughts and things that you're doing. And I think that's healthy for me. It's healthy for us. And I think you just have to do what makes you feel better at the same time.
And I think it's shaming people both on the business side or on the personal side and on the business side. Like I've seen shaming on the business side where people are shaming others because they are making an offer during this time.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this in the next point, but there's nothing wrong with that. There absolutely, when we are going to make an offer, we want to do it in a very respectful way. We want to do it in a way that, takes into consideration what people may or may not be going through with this whole thing. But let's just move on to the third point, shall we?
Well, and that like those people that are it's a business. Like they're doing it to like obviously get financial reward from it, but also if they have employees to help pay for that, like you can't just because somebody is.
We don't know. Yeah, I think. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think to your point is we don't know everybody's situation.
No one should.
You and I do not know everybody's situation, so let's not jump on the play the shame game when we don't have the full story. Like another good example is
you never know the true story of anybody, and
it's true. We should never play the shame game anyway.
No.
Period.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Point number 3. So point number 1, think of others. Point number 2, don't shame others. And point number 3, keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
This is really important right now.
Yeah, I think you've got to still keep doing stuff that you love. Like if I don't think you should be made to feel guilty or feel bad for doing something that you
like.
Really
what's an
love.
Example? Like our friend Alexis.
Yeah, like running out. Lots of people like to run outside, and I know there's in some cases people can't get out and run. But if running outside fuels your body and you really enjoy it, like you can't stop doing those things because it's helping you get through this time, and that's something that you really love to do.
Again, as long as it's being done
in a respectful
way to others, which comes back to point number 1, which is thinking of others, right? So like the other side of keep moving forward is that number 1, when it comes to business, like we can't all just shelter and hide.
But with the world, like, you can't do that. You have to keep.
And this is why, like, I'm not understating the impact that the coronavirus has had on business, because we have many friends who own restaurants, breweries, coffee shops, shops, studios, art studios, flight attendants. Like there have been so many people who have been impacted by this. We are not understating the ripple effect of the coronavirus and its impact on business. But if you can still do business, then you should be doing business.
If you're still open for business and you still can, and maybe if you can't in some ways and you're pivoting, you're trying something else, then you should still continue with your business.
You got to keep moving forward. Because listen, if all of us stop doing business and there's no commerce that's happening, then we all suffer, right? The only way the economy is going to continue to be able to pick itself up off the ground is if we start selling stuff and people keep buying stuff. And here's what I will tell you, by the way, that is still happening. Like I made a post recently in a private group where I was sharing that not 1, but 2, but 3 people this weekend shared with me launches in their membership sites in a variety of different markets, by the way. One, she helps artists. She added 364 new members. And that was with a very low key launch. Another one, the one and only Tamara Bennett, added 420 new members into her membership that teaches how to paint decorative door hangers. Decorative door hangers. And you're squeezing me. Am I?
I'm not squeezing.
Is this your cue that I need to wrap up?
It's not.
I haven't got on the same page here. Is this my cue that I got to wrap up?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
You get excited.
I do get excited. I get excited and passionate about it because I want people to realize, like, business is not stopping for everybody. Like, we got to keep moving forward. You got to move forward on the personal side. You got to keep moving forward on the business side.
Yeah, I think it goes back to that first point you said of like, you shouldn't feel guilty for doing business. Like if that's your business, then you should be considerate, but keep moving forward and don't.
Of course. And I am not in any way, again, suggesting that we don't, move forward and make offers without keeping regard for what is happening in the marketplace, right? Like we have to be mindful of what is happening. We have to be mindful of others. We have to be mindful that people are experiencing both health concerns, business concerns. Like there's a lot of uncertainty, but we can't stop moving forward.
No.
So those are our 3 tips on how to show up as a good human being during the coronavirus. Number 1, most importantly, think of others.
Yeah.
Number 2,
don't shame other people for.
Don't shame others. And number 3, keep moving forward. My friends, you're awesome. We are going to get through this. And what you want?
I want to read the comments.
Oh, well, speaking of Tamara Bennett, whoop, whoop, there she is. Holla. Tamara Bennett kicking butt. Would love to see that. And Dana Abraham just welcomed 300 new families into her program. How amazing is that, Dana? That is incredible to hear. Congratulations. It just shows like, because this is, we see this all the time. I get private messages all the time from people in our tribe who are thriving during this time. You know, again, I'm not understating that there are a lot of people who are challenged during this time.
I just think it's also important to make sure you're surrounding yourself with, positive media as well. Because I mean, you go on MSN, or for me, I always check that every morning, and it's negative and it's really depressing. And for me,
this was really hard for you.
It was really hard for me. I have to turn it off because I'm guilty of clicking on links that say, the poor girl that was like 21 or 20 from London, England that passed away. And any young, younger person, I tend to click on it to read it. And then I get all anxious about it. And it's like, it's so important to pick one source of media, or don't look at that and just read some of the positive stuff, because there is really some amazing things happening in the world. Like there was a 104-year-old Italian grandma that beat it. And there is so much positive stuff that's happening in the world, in business and life and other things, that I think and even in your conversations with friends and stuff, I think it's just important to.
And I totally agree. And I had a great conversation this weekend with one of my really dear friends, James Wedmore, who, to your point, he's a really positive guy. And it really, he helped me get perspective about a big decision that we were looking to make. And I'm grateful for that. And to that point, I want to encourage you, when you see positive stories, when you hear about positive stories, share them. We have to also share the other side of the coin. Tony Robbins sent out an incredible video on Instagram yesterday. And it teared me up watching it, because it was all these incredible, beautiful stories of nurses and doctors around the world. And then also people in this, quarantined in Italy, playing music together and doing all these amazing things. People playing tennis together on on their balconies.
And there was even one guy, I don't know if you saw it. I saw that he saw this lady dancing on the ceiling in Brooklyn, New York, and he liked her.
Not dance on the ceiling.
Dancing on the roof. And he liked her, and he put his number on a drone and flew the drone over and said, "Do you want to have dinner with me?" And she said, "Sure." And then they ended up, obviously they haven't met, having dinner, and he sat on his patio and had FaceTime. And then she sat on her patio and had FaceTime, and they had a date. How amazing is that? There's still these connections going on. And one thing I would say that too, because friends and I have been talking about this, if you're out walking, you're you're doing the whole distancing thing, there is nothing wrong with smiling at somebody.
Right.
You can look at somebody and you can
you're not going to get coronavirus from looking at somebody.
But I think that's really important, because I think it's you're going on these walks, we're all going through it. And it's just important, I think, to still get that connection and not make people feel bad either. Because a friend of mine said that she was walking with her, she was going out for a walk, and she saw a mom and a child, and the child said, "Oh no, there's a person coming," and ran away. And I just think there's a respectful way to do that in a positive way. That's still
keep your
distance. You're still positive. You're smiling. That's what it's about. We have to get through this, and we're not going to get through it with our head down and it's just, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you're spot on. Like, I love that story of that man and woman who are on the balconies and the rooftops, having dinner together virtually. I think that's amazing. And I just think that, like, you've done a lot of things this past week for your community, which I think is awesome, and just showing up. And I just think that we can all do that. And so if you see positive messages, make sure that you share those too, because I think those are important during this time. We will get through this, gang. We will get through this. You know, it's not going to come without its challenges. That is for sure.
And there won't be days where, I mean, even it broke my heart. Even Sam, our little guy, said yesterday, he's like, I just wanted to go back to like normal life.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's feeling
everyone's
it. Like,
feeling it. We can't.
We're feeling it. The kids feeling it. There's people that are feeling it way worse than us. And I'm grateful that, that we're still healthy and stuff. And we're all going to experience our challenges. But I think at the end of the day, like, how we show up is really important. So number 1, think of others. Number 2, don't shame others. And number 3, keep moving forward. My friends, thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for jumping on the comments. There's a lot of them. We can't always see them all, but
someone
cheers.
Said, my mug's from Kenya. Someone asked for it.
Yes. But just remember, you're awesome. Make it a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.